Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Well, some winter racing stretches us closer to February Speed Weeks. I had a phone call today from a very interesting former driver. I'll fill you in. And we lost a couple of icons in their auto racing circles. We got all this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, January the 11th, 2021, from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet? Please do. No sense in missing a podcast. You can download them right into your email box. You'll never miss another episode. Isn't that the best way to start your year of 2021, especially on a Monday? The best day of the week. All right, let's get to the victory lane lap. And yes, there was some racing going on over the weekend. Christmas, New Year's, a little thin. Five consecutive wins, 5 years in a row. Michael Page has taken home the $6,000 check for the first week in January. Out west on the dirt again, the Wild West Shootout is being held in Santan Valley, Arizona. It's a week-long event, and Saturday night was the first race. 3 divisions, 171 entries total. Those guys are eager to get out of the cold, get into the heat, and do some racing. Saturday night's Modified A main was won by Justin Strand. The Super Late Model race by Jonathan Davenport, and the X Mods by Jory Burke. Last night, the Modifieds were taken by Jake Gallardo. Ricky Thornton Jr. grabbed another win in Super Lates, and Shane Sabraski was your winner in X Mods. Now we've got an off night this evening as we go live here on Speedway Report. Tuesday night, the 12th, they're going to have a pit party and a concert. They will resume racing on Wednesday, the 13th of this week. And then they'll skip a night on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next weekend. They will button up the Wild West Shootout for 2021. Yes, we will have all the results right here on Speedway Report. Closer to our home here, just down the road in Dillon, South Carolina, they ran the annual New Year's Bash. Not exactly on New Year's Day, but close enough. Big race for the street stock division, 111 laps, 2,500 to win. Bobby Tubbleston III was your winner. And the Chili Bowl, probably one of the biggest short track races of the year, arguably the biggest, gets underway tonight. Everybody is down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They began practice earlier today, this morning actually, with the rotating practice session. The first heat race of this year's Chili Bowl in the week-long event began about 30 minutes ago from our live broadcast. Next week, we'll have all the results from this year's Chili Bowl. Still remains on my bucket list. I remain here in Charlotte. Doesn't look like I'm going to Tulsa, Oklahoma this year. Chili Bowl someday. I've checked off enough of them over the years, so no crying, no whining. Yet I will get back to checking off some new ones soon. COVID last year did none of us any good. Let's see what we can do this year. Alrighty, I want to talk about a couple of icons that since we were on the air last, well, they left the sport, and their impact was greatly felt across racing. Names that are pretty obvious within their own circles. In the IndyCar ranks, Pat Patrick passed away. He was in his 90s, and as a IndyCar team owner, he visited Victory Lane at the Indianapolis 500 3 times. The final time was with Emerson Fittipaldi with that great duel with Al Unser Jr., that everybody remembers. Jr. going into the wall on the next to last lap. Emo cruising to the win with the final lap under caution. A memorable race. But the other two, his driver was Gordon Johncock. And Gordon Johncock and Pat Patrick, they paired up to win these two 500-mile races at Indianapolis. And my goodness, were these two on the opposite ends of the memorable one. I'm going to paraphrase Donald Davidson And in 1973, Gordon Johncock won that race. And as Davidson said, the year nobody wanted to remember. And then Johncock and Pat Patrick won in 1982, the finish that no one could ever forget. We had rain delays in 73. We had deaths in 73. It was a rain-shortened event. Gordy was leading when the rain finally fell and the checkers in the red, and everybody at that point really wanted to just get the heck out of there. And then in 1982, that classic win, replayed over and over again, just an amazing moment in Indianapolis Motor Speedway history. Gordon Johncock held off a charging Rick Mears. The two of them crossed the white flag, wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side for the win. For the one lap to go, Johncock got the advantage going into one. Mears made the final stab on the coming out of 4 on the last lap, pulled up to a clear view of Johncock's side pod. Not to be. Gordy won in 82. This was all in Pat Patrick's equipment. His final IndyCar start, I believe, was in 04, the 04 season at the Speedway, possibly 05. Was a big factor with IndyCar racing for so many years. Pat Patrick, thanks for the memories. IndyCar racing will not be the same without you. And I want to talk about a family friend also left us this past week, Andrew McElravy. Old Mac, as he was known across the short track world, big figure in the Northeast racing in the modified division as far as dirt cars as well as pavement cars. Spent his entire life at racetracks and in his camper. Now, even if he's not a guy that you know, everybody knew him as Mac. McElravy was his full name. Mac. Everybody, we knew him all over the place. He knew my grandfather. He goes way, way back. And you couldn't go to a modified race, pretty much any of the big ones, without seeing Mac there. He's one of those guys where if you don't know who he was, I'm saying the name, who is this guy? Go on the Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds Facebook page. I put a photo of him up there. It was shared from a tribute from the Danbury Race Arena page, and you'll recognize Mac. Anybody in the Northeast in modified racing, they knew who he was because I couldn't go to a big race without him. Whether all the pavement cars, he was there for the glory days of Evans and Bodine and Troyer, and well before that, he was there for the Ruggiero, Kent, Stefanik, Spencer years. He was at dirt cars. You saw him at Eastern States in Middletown. You saw him at Super Dirt Week in Syracuse. If there was a fall final or a World Series in Connecticut to be held, he was there. All the big modified races. Mac, much like Pat Patrick, he was a fixture of the sport, defined it as far as a fan and a participant. Guys, we'll see you someday again at the big racetrack in the sky. But thanks, both of you, for all you did for the sport. I do want to touch on Hailie Deegan tonight. This was another incident where if you haven't heard, Hailie said a word that really shouldn't be spoken out loud, or we don't do it too much. And it was caught on this online iRacing game broadcast. She's going to sensitivity training. I think the whole world is just getting too soft. We're throwing out a little vocabulary here and there online. Lighten up, folks. She's 18 years old. She's got a bright future. She's a good kid. I met her, talked to her, know her a little bit. We say words now and again, especially when we're not on air. I'm cognizant of when I'm on air, on this microphone right here, on camera. Mistakes can happen. I can say some things. I certainly talk differently when I'm with my friends, just privately, than I am online or on air. Everybody does. Everybody in broadcasting does. Racers do as well. It happens. Hailie Deegan, my corner, still got a bright future in the sport. Just wanted to touch on it. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that. Social media has just been evil, dark place of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The keyboard warriors, the judgmental, the judge, jury, and executioners in social media don't like you, don't need you. Move on along. Hailie Deegan, you're fine. You said something. You're probably not something that you would say in public. I got a news for the cancel culture. Why don't you get one of these scanners and listen to these folks in the heat of battle in a real race, or in the crew chief, or in the garage area when things are really going on. When people aren't in front and doing an interview and there's just emotions and heat's going, things get said, folks. Lighten up. 2020 was a rough year. We're just getting more sensitive and more politically correct. It's not a good thing in my book. Just calm down. Haley's fine. She's going to have a bright, bright future in the sport. Let's segue right there. Good. Haley Deegan's got a bright, bright future in the sport. I had a bright, bright phone call today that I want to tell you guys about. I touched on this gentleman a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. We're talking a little bit about where he was, what he was going on. Lo and behold, today was the day. I was kind of surprised by it. My cell phone rings. Number I don't recognize, but I call a lot of people. I email a lot of people. What's going on here? Who's this? It's a number. I'm not going to give it out, naturally. But I answer the phone. Yes, Patrick. Who's on the other line here? Lo and behold, who calls me? Bill Lester. Yes. I talked about him from Tyrone McIntyre, referenced by Rhonda Beck to Tyrone McIntyre to Bill Lester. I'm talking about him online, on air, and lo and behold, Bill Lester rings my phone today. I was thrilled. It was so exciting to talk to Bill. We're going to talk again, but I talked about his book coming out here in early February. It's going to be out. Go to BillLester.com. Check it out. It's called Winning in Reverse. Cute title, and I'm going to tell you why before the night's over. But I talked to Bill a little bit. I did sort of like, a mini off-the-cuff interview with him. I wanted to hear about what he was doing, his career, what was going on a little bit there. And he was he was a Hewlett-Packard corporate guy for a lot of time, and he didn't make the jump out of the corporate world to be a professional race car driver until he was 40 years old. Who does that? Was the guy crazy or courageous? I think he was courageous. He gives a lot of credit to his wife that helped him along with support and finances and things like that. But we dove into his story a little bit deeper. He's older than me, but he's a longtime fan of the sport. Northern California guy. Became a fan of the sport seeing Can-Am racing at Laguna Seca. He saw some of the greats, Bruce McLaren, Peter Revson, the glory days of Can-Am racing. He was there and he saw these guys. When I was a kid, Can-Am racing was big. It was still a big deal, but I think it was coming over the top a little bit and on a downward slide. We've seen this, everything's cyclical. We've seen it in IndyCar, we've seen it in NASCAR. Can-Am used to be a huge thing, and it's sort of a little bit of fade when I was a little kid. However, it was really a bigger deal when Bill Lester was a kid. This is the type of stuff that he fell in love with. I love asking this of different guys. Where'd you get your bite in the sport? What part of the sport put their teeth in you, and then you were stuck with it for life? Can-Am racing in Northern California is where Bill Lester, 8 years old, saw this racing with his dad, and he wanted to be a race car driver. I remember this moment when I was a little kid. My dad took me to my first race, saw the stock cars for the first time, and said, I want to be a race car driver when I grow up. Bill Lester says, I want to be a race car driver when I grow up. So this story is being told, and I wouldn't call it a story, or he won't call it a story. Bill Lester won't call it a story in his book. It's more of a memoir. It's more of a tale. The format for the book, or the premise of it, is overcoming obstacles. Now, overcoming obstacles, it's going to be a background in auto racing. Some of you in the audience might know Mike Mooney, who I referenced to Bill Lester today. They didn't know each other. But in any event, Mike Mooney has a book as well called Reputation Shift. And Mike Mooney handled somewhat of the PR side and the business side in the NASCAR garage for a long time. His book deals with your reputation in a professional and personal manner. The background of it is his career in NASCAR. The background is irrelevant. The book can be used in any aspect, whatever you do, whether you're in racing or not, doesn't matter. Mooney's book just used it. He learned his lessons, got the stories with a NASCAR career, and it can be transferred anywhere. Bill Lester has a similar viewpoint on this. Overcoming obstacles is the point of the book. He's got a background of his auto racing career, but it doesn't really matter where you are now in life as far as professional or personally. This book is applicable to overcoming the obstacles. Jonathan Ingram assist Bill in writing this. I know Jonathan from my work with Aruba, and Bill told me a little bit about the book. Interesting tale. I had a caution, Bill. I actually stopped him a little bit because I did not want to get much like a movie trailer. I don't want to see too much of the movie and feel like I've seen too much and then don't want to see the movie. Bill was telling me a lot about the book and some stories, and I cautioned him a little bit. I kind of backed off the throttle in the Q&A with him here. Bill's a wonderful interview, by the way. He was very elaborate and expanded on topics quite easily. But I want to read the book first, and then I got his number now. I do want to call him on the backside of the book and talk to him a lot more about what I just read. I'm gonna work that out as we go forward here after the book is released in February. But Bill talked to me about his career at Hewlett-Packard, and that he went into engineering, studied school, because his parents didn't have the finances and he didn't have the last name like so many folks do to help your way up the ladder in this sport. We all know it's a sport of connections, a sport of money. Bill became an engineer for Hewlett-Packard because he was able to save some money, invest some money, and actually put himself in a much more stable position because he didn't come from a rich family. So he was intelligent, used his brain, got the paychecks, and was able to go racing. Now, he's an SCCA guy as he began his career, worked in that area of the sport before he came over to NASCAR in the early 2000s. But he told me about racing, just seeing it, loving it, the sights and smells of the sport. That's what drew me to it. I smell fried dough at a fairgrounds, and it brings me back to when I'm 7 years old in Danbury, Connecticut at the race arena, still to this day. So I get just that feeling, that noise, that sound of the sport that just grabs you. Bill was an 8 to 5 guy, made his paycheck, went racing on the weekends, and was able to tells a story about his first ride in, they nicknamed them heavy cars from his days in sports car racing and coming over to heavy cars, otherwise known as what? Yes, say it with me, stock cars. Sports cars and Indy cars, those type of racing, and coming over to stock cars, I say you double your weight and you take a contact patch with your tire and put it in half, so they drive a heck of a lot differently. Well, Bill Lester went to test his very first heavy car or stock car at the ARCA weekend race of all places, Anderson, Indiana. Yes, the home of the Little 500. This was Bill Lester's first time ever sitting in a stock car. Was not a private test, but it was the practice session for the ARCA race. He goes into it. He does well. His practice times, had they been transferred over to qualifying times, he would have qualified in the top 10 at the ARCA race. He made a start with Bobby Hillin Jr. at Watkins Glen, and then he goes on. He elaborated on the tale of him getting involved in Dodge in their truck program, Bill Davis Racing. I don't want to give away too much because we got to read the book. You and I both, though, and we're going to get into this. But he talks about just overcoming obstacles as a guy with not a lot of money, a guy without the last name, and then coming from California and the West Coast to the southeastern United States as a man of color, coming into the southeastern United States, into the NASCAR world. The racism that he experienced, the obstacles that he had to fight through. As I mentioned on this show a few weeks ago, I see NASCAR racing as not any kind of a racist sport. I haven't really experienced it ever in my life, but I'm also a white guy. And it's not always the same experience for everybody in the United States of America. So with an open mind, I listened to Bill. He touched on it a little bit. I didn't want to make that the focal point of our conversation, but I certainly asked him about it, and I wanted to be sensitive to his point of view. And he did tell me, right from the get-go, the color of his skin did matter, how people viewed him, the opinions of him, just on sight. And that happened when he was very young, even in the road racing ranks. He came to the southeastern United States, got involved in NASCAR, which I think is a very family-friendly, healthy sport. But sadly, yes, Bill did experience this, and he did tell me about it. I certainly want to read more about it before read the details of it, what Jonathan Ingram and what Bill Lester put together for this book. I want to read more about it and then talk to Bill Lester again. Hopefully we maybe get him on air, or I can talk to him off air and then relay the message to you. But that's the path I want to go. And it's called Winning in Reverse. That's the title of the book, Winning in Reverse. Why is it? This was clever. Bill came up with a title himself. It's because his last race ever was in what? It was in a go-kart. A professional race car driver ran his entire career and then finished out his career in a go-kart. Everybody else starts their career in a go-kart, advances through the ranks, through road racing, stock cars, Indy cars, what have you, and finishes their career there, and then steps away. So I thought that was clever. I believe that was in 2012. Bill, if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong. But that was the final start that he made in his career. In the truck series, it was about 07. But he's retired from racing now, doing speaking. He's a writer. He's got this new book, Winning in Reverse, BillLester.com. So I encourage you to go there. You can grab a copy. You can order a copy. You can't get it yet. It won't be ready until February when we'll have it in our hands. However, it sounds like a fascinating read. I can't wait to check it out and look at it. And Bill Lester, thank you so much for the phone call again. I look forward to talking with you again. I look forward to reading the book, hearing about your experience professionally, personally, and like we all can use, overcoming obstacles. I don't think there's a person watching this show that doesn't have obstacles that they need to overcome. Personal life, professional life, we all do. We all need it. But I had this fantastic phone call today. Bill Lester, more than gracious, more than professional, picked up his phone, gave of himself his time just to call me up and talk to me. Thank you, Tyrone McIntyre, for connecting the two of us. Thank you, Rhonda Beck, for putting this whole thing together. If you go into the archives of SpeedwayReport.com, Rhonda Beck has a very good article, an interview with Tyrone McIntyre about his career in racing here in the Southeast in the short track racing world here. Interesting tales, interesting points of view. I love this sport, and I love hearing about other people's impressions from where they came from and where they are in racing. Bill Lester, thank you so much for the conversation today. I loved it, and I look forward to talking with you again. Go to BillLester.com, grab your copy of Winning in Reverse. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of racing with SpeedwayReport.com. This show and all of our past shows are uploaded onto the site, so please help yourself to a podcast, especially for those road trips. Speed Weeks isn't that far away. You're all going to Florida. I think you need to listen to some Speedway Report. On social media, hook up with me. Where are we? Facebook. On the Racers Reunion page, as well as Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. In the forum at racersreunion.com, as well as YouTube that I told you about at the top of the show. Big thanks to our Facebook live feed and our family tonight. Thanks for watching the show. I want to thank all of the military, past and present, for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless, and thank you. You've been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Speedway Pat. Now, if you're on Facebook Live right now, it's January 11th. We're about 5 minutes before the top of the hour. Head to the drag racing list page. Bill Pratt and John Bachman will take you through the next hour. I'll be back live here on Facebook Monday, January 18th, and we're going to wrap up the week-long Chili Bowl and look ahead to the Roar before the 24. Thank you all for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I'll see y'all next week.